There you go. Yeah, sit you guys right up here next to the Planters peanuts, the Skittles, and the nacho chips. Comfortable spot. Well, it's Sunday, April 27th. And I'm packing a lot of hose. Why are you packing all that hose, Byron? That's a good question. I'm glad you asked. So we've got a drain line that is plugged, and we had quite a little lake formed right here yesterday in front of our pop machine. And I could not get it unplugged. Well, what happens is you've got these plastic lines that run from transfer pumps into a drain in our sink, and over time they just get really nasty inside. There's syrup from the pop that runs through those lines along with water. The lines, they just get really gummy inside, sludgy. There's this disgusting sludge that forms in them. And so somewhere between here, our transfer pump, and our utility room back here where our sink is, it's blocked. And the line runs from this area, underneath the counters, up the wall, through an opening there above the entrance to the auditorium, and then down a wall and into our drainage sink. So it accounts to about 38, 39 feet of line coming from a little transfer pump. But there are no drains at all underneath this part of the concession area. Nothing. So everything that gets done here with water-based products has to be pumped into another room. It's just typical. I mean, when this theater was originally built in 1948, the concession area was right where you are, right where the camera is, so in this back corner. And so at some point between 1948 and as early as I can remember, the 70s, I'm not sure when exactly this happened, but they moved the concession area from here to here. At one time, this was just a large seating area. There was a mirror here, and you used to enter into the auditorium from here. You would go in this way, and you could turn either way and then go through these doors into the auditorium. And of course, then obviously they closed that off, put new entrances into the auditorium, and built the concession here in the format it's in now. I guess if I was to judge how long ago this was done, based on the cabinetry and the style, the type of wood they used, late 50s, early 60s maybe, is what I'm guessing. But I don't know. Maybe somebody out there in YouTube land that remembers the Dome Theater from the early days, in the 50s and the 60s, or maybe worked here, would know when this was put in. But they used to have drainage system back here, and which meant that it was easy to drain your water-based products. If you had a sink, which they did, it went straight into a drain, through the concrete floor, and out into the collection out in the street system here in Libby. So when they moved that, they didn't put a lot of thought into putting new drains in the floor. They just somehow used transfer pumps or probably buckets back in the day to collect that stuff, and they would dump it. I assume the reason that they moved the concessions from here to there was due to space. They wanted more space. I've kicked it around with my wife a few times of putting the concession area back here. I think it's a cool area. Everything's self-contained. It opens this area up a lot more for people to come in without being bottlenecked by the concession area to get into the auditorium, which happens. I mean, we showed Minecraft last weekend, and my goodness, we had 300 people trying to get in here at once, and the line for concessions was just a snake through the whole area, and people couldn't, get in and out very easily. We had to, well, matter of fact, my only job that I had when I was here was just to make sure people could get in and out of the theater easily and make it to their seats. So again, we've kicked that around. I don't know if it'll ever happen. my wife's kind of on the fence over it. She doesn't know if it's maybe the best thing to do, the right thing to do. Because the way it is now, it works. That would also take a lot of expense to move it from there to there. And the old theater doesn't make a lot of money. Well, let's be honest with you. It's got its peaks and valleys. And so it supports itself, but it doesn't support major upgrades very well. It takes a lot of saving and usually a visit to the bank. And we're tired of being stretched out on payments, so whatever. Anyway, I've got to run a new line from this transfer pump. I'll bring you guys in here and show you. It's just a little pump at the bottom that collects all the ice and the runover pop from the pop machine and transfers it over to that sink. I'll show you guys how that runs, and we'll get busy and change it. It's not going to take long, but I thought it might be fun while we're doing that, just talk a little bit about the dome, and I can tell you guys a little bit about its history, because that's always fun. All right, let's get busy and change some line. So here we go. Here's our pop machine, supplied by the good folks at Coca-Cola. And it's just kind of a little small self-contained unit. Access down here in the bottom. You can get to some of the valves and controls. It's got a small hopper here for ice, which still has a little bit in it from last night. But as everything drains through this, it goes through a series of lines, and it has to run underneath here, underneath our cabinets. And then it gets into this wild bundle of lines, which are water lines, CO2 lines. The main big wrap there, that is all of our soda syrup and the lines that bring it into the machine. It runs all the way up here. You can kind of see here, up, 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 and then out that hole in the wall. And let me just walk you around to where it goes next. This is crazy. I'm sure we're not the only place in the country that has something like this. Anyway, God comes through this wall and follows the same bundle through the next wall, which is right here. Here's where our trash is for reference. There's the auditorium. Okay. Now it comes through the wall here. Okay, you track it down, tracking it down, tracking it down, tracking it down, and then it just basically dumps into the sink right there. A really basic system, and it just runs off of a small evaporator pump or a little transfer pump. And I'll show you guys that next. Yeah, again, we had a heck of a lake formed here right underneath the pop machine. You can kind of still see the remnants of the wet spot there from last night. It was just all water. It was trying to push the ice runoff out, and it just couldn't push it through the hose, so it was leaking around the hose attachment to the transfer pump. So to access this little guy, we gotta jump back in here, bring you in here and show you what we got. So here's our transfer pump, line coming out of it. And this power for the pump is right here in this little power box. Yeah, it was basically just backflowing out of this hole here and squirting out around where the attachment line is to the fitting. We just had a big mess, water all over in here, which kind of freaks me out. I don't want to get water too close to that power supply, because if that goes down, then the whole machine doesn't work, and man, we're not selling pop, which isn't a good thing. Soda, I'm sorry, some people refer to it as soda. Anyway, so that's, again, we're going to pull that line off there, pull all the old line out, and get some new stuff in here. Probably gonna make a little bit of a backflow mess here. I better unplug this bugger. It'll start pumping, and we'll have one heck of a mess if it starts pumping, because it's continually draining melting ice into this transfer pump. And if it goes off, this thing will shoot straight in the air. We'll have a mess. Well, not real successful at containing my mess here. But it's only water and it cleans up easy. We're not going to complain too much about that. Hey, you own a theater, you got lots of cups. We'll just put her in that cup right there. Drain away, baby. There's not much in there. I've already cut the line about halfway between here and the drainage sink. So it can't have that much in there to lose. I think that's it. Nope, it's not. Come on now. Well, there's a cup under there. Look at that good cup. I wonder if anybody knew that was there. Huh. So who out there knew that the Dome Theater was actually originally built in 1910? You know, we advertised on our social media that the theater was built in 1948, but there was a building here before the Dome was here, and it was the Kootenai Theater and Opera House, built originally in 1910. And they showed movies here for many years, and they put on presentations, and it was kind of a community hall. Now, the original owners were a couple gentlemen by the name of Hoffman and Kienitz. They built the original establishment. It was wooden. It was a wooden structure, which isn't surprising because this is a timber industry town, or small town of Libby, and so that's what you build stuff out of. Especially back in those days, that was pretty normal for construction anyway. There were several owners over the course of the next 30 years, from 1910, or about 38 years or so until 1948. But somewhere, gosh, I want to say maybe it was around 1940. I'm not sure, but two families purchased the theater together. Last name of Niels and Agather, and J. Niels Lumber Company was the large thriving lumber mill here at the time, and so that's where the Niels side of it comes in. And the Agathers, I believe, were related, and so I think it was a family venture. Somebody may correct me on that. I may be wrong, but it was operated by two women at the time. And in 1948, January of 1948, it caught fire and burnt. And what I find kind of interesting is that although the theater was owned by two families that were heavily involved in the timber industry here in Libby, they also were very smart folks. And the fact that they knew that they didn't want this place to burn down again. So how do you do that? Well, you build it all out of concrete. And so that's what they did. The walls inside of here are honestly made of wood, even though they kind of have a stucco on them. It could burn in here, but the structure would likely survive. And so I think that's really what they were thinking of, is that even if it had another fire, they could continue to utilize the building with some remodel. So anyway, that's the early history of this building. Well, I guess if I was to add to that, what is absolutely bonkers about the story is that this place was burnt down. It was destroyed in January of 1948. By the end of 1948, this building was erected, and they were showing movies in here again. I mean, what a testament to those post-war era folks that were gritty and determined. Of course, they had resources, a lot of local resources available, and they came in here and they built a fairly large structure out of concrete in less than a year. Mind-boggling to me. I mean, I've seen houses that have taken much longer. Of course, it's hard to compare construction back in those days to today, but yeah, what a neat story that people did that back then. They had that kind of drive and initiative to keep things going. Of course, the movie theater in the 40s was a local place of not only entertainment but news. I mean, you got your news from around the world at a theater, and so where else were you going to get it? Nowhere. I mean, yeah, newspapers and that sort of thing, but the movies were a very exciting place. The theater was an exciting place to come just for that reason. And so I'm sure that was part of the reason why, and part of the need to get it built back so quickly is it was a resource for the community, not just for entertainment again, but also for your news and other cultural events, you know, concerts and things like that, gatherings, public gatherings. But a great story about the early history of the theater for sure. So I have to admit, this is a mess. I wish there was another way to do this, and we're going to figure it out someday. Oh, these zip ties are my nemesis. And to top it off, we not only have soda lines coming through and support lines for that, but we've also got water lines coming through to support things like the sink here, Ethernet cable lines. Oh man. And I think maybe you guys could see it. This right here, this is a drain. So everything that's pumped into that other room where we're running this line to is then taken into a large transfer pump. Pushes it back up out of that room and down this pipe and empties into a drain that both bathrooms go into on the other side of the building. We need to get a plumber in here because there is actually a drain in this other room that feeds the traditional route out of that utility room and out into the sewer system in Libby. But somebody broke a snake off in there years ago. They had obviously a plug in the line somewhere, and they ran a snake down there and broke it off, didn't get the plug out. So there's a snake busted off in there. But I know a guy here locally that's his specialty, is taking care of bad situations like that. All right, so now we gotta go the other side of this wall and pull more of that line through. Yes, I'm a tall fella, but even I need help sometimes. These little folding stools are cool. I have a tendency to think that maybe they're a great way to break your neck, but you guys see that? These little guys here, pop, got a stool. You stand up here and do this kind of stuff. So right now we are standing in what used to be an entryway. Let me do this real quick. Beep. There you go. So obviously where you're sitting now, you are looking out into the concession area. Ticket window doors behind me, and so years ago this opening was never here. The opening to come into the auditorium was here. You came through this way and then you turned and went back in. And then obviously they cut these entryways in when they changed the concession area around years ago. And I'll show you here, there's a door right here. That little tiny door. That thing was at one time, you would walk in here and this was how you could get into the concession area. The old concession area, which was back where my backpack is. So this is how you entered it if you were an employee. Old breakneck 2000, here we go. Let's pull this one. There we are. Woo, hey-oh. In case that brings them. Oh, look at there. There's a garbage can right there. We'll just put it right in the garbage. This line is really old. Oh man, it is so black with, I mean, look at the color of that. I don't know if you guys can see that. Yeah, it's collapsed on itself. It's old. But the color of it indicates that it is dirty inside. It is full of a lot of gunk. Bacteria growth in those things are bad. I'm just gonna cut that off right there. Put that in the garbage. Let's go to the other side. Get the rest of this line out of here. Oh man, I can see it right here. Holy cow. Woo. Plugged solid right there. Yeah. Yikes. So our assumption is that, again, back when this was originally part of the active concession area, is that this room contained a sink and drainage and so forth. You could wash your utensils and things like that you're using to serve the public during the night, clean up at the end of the day, clean your popcorn kettle or whatever you needed to do. They probably have stored letters in here. This thing seems to be pretty old. It's a great place to house the marquee letters. That's here. So this room probably hasn't changed a whole lot. It's got some vintage cabinetry on it that you guys are sitting on top of right now. So again, this was part of the original concession area back in 1948. A little bit of added trivia for you. We really need get a new utility sink in here. This thing is just holding on for dear life right now. And I'll tell you what, man, owning a theater this old and trying to keep up on the improvements, I don't have to tell anybody that's ever owned a theater an old theater. Any of the previous owners, they struggled with it too. They're a maintenance hog, and you got to stay on top of them. There's always a little bit of something that needs fixed. It never goes away. That's okay though. I like working on stuff. I really do. And so I guess owning a theater is probably not too bad for me. My wife, she likes to work on stuff. Mostly work on telling me that I'm wrong all the time. Just joking, Chelsea. I love you, and you're the best. No, my wife actually does like to come down here and participate in some of these maintenance activities too. She's the one that keeps our business flowing and thriving, and she's active with our Airbnb that we have upstairs, small apartment. So one thing to keep in mind, if you ever want to really test your marriage and see if it's worth its salt, see if you guys really understand each other, go into business together. This was our first business together. Since then, we've purchased 2 others because honestly, we function pretty well together as a group. And we're just like everybody else. We have our ups and downs, but it always ends with a give and take that's that's accepted. That's just the way marriage should be, if you ask me. I'm not here to counsel anybody on marriage. I'm just saying that going into business with your wife will test your relationship, and you'll have a better understanding of who they are. They'll have a better understanding of who you are. And if it all works out, it's a wonderful thing. We can function in kind of these environments that at times are very stressful. And we have a land survey business that we run together. Very stressful at times. And then times like this last weekend where we had an entire packed house here in the theater. And she and I kind of share this same relationship where we want our customer service to be number one when they come in here. It doesn't matter who you are. Your experience should be the best. And when you get that many people in the theater, you start to second guess whether or not your customer service is worth a damn. That's part of why she and I work so well together, is we have the same outlook for customer service as well. And so we agree a lot on that things. Really, if you can agree on customer service, at least as the main point of owning a business, then that's to me more than half the battle. And so that's still what we expect here, even in this old building where we know that things aren't going to be quite as sharp and pristine and clear and wonderful as they might be in a theater built in the last 10 years. There's still a level of customer satisfaction that we know we can give people here, because most people walk in this building and they go, oh, it's a vintage theater. And we really appreciate that, I think they do. I mean, we have had some people tell us it smells musty in here, but if you're 75, 6, 7, 8, 78 years old, your insides might start smelling bad too. Nothing against anyone I know that's over 70. But it could be a fact. It could be a fact. I don't know. All right, line's out. Time to move on to the next part. We're gonna push new line in here. All right. Well, I went down to my local Ace Hardware. You know, helpful hardware folks. Got me 40 feet of premium 3/8 ID clear vinyl line. Why do we get the clear? Well, kind of for the same reason that the last one was clear. So you can kind of see when it starts building up with crap, and you know when it's time to change it. These are a little more flexible than I like. And what I mean by that is the really flexible ones can get pinched, kind of going through this maze that we've built for drain line. And when they're new, they don't really tend to get as pinched because there seems like their structure is a little bit more rigid. But over time, for some reason, they kind of flatten out. I don't know. I mean, everything is subject to wear and tear and degradation over time, right? I guess even a vinyl line. But for now, this is going to work great. It's going to update what we had. The water will flow like wine once again. I think it actually might be easier if we go back into the utility room and start running the line there and pushing it through and bringing it back out and down, kind of the opposite way that we took it out, right? So I've kind of got this inherent nature about me that is steeped in local history. I love it, and part of it comes from the fact that I grew up here, but also that I'm a land surveyor, and as a land surveyor by trade, everything you do is based on the history that came before you. And so that's just part of me, I guess. And so with regards to the theater, I have always had this need to learn more about its history. Well, we've met a guy that worked here in 1951. He was a projectionist. He had just mentioned on his way in, I believe, that he had worked here. And so after the show was out, I asked him if he wanted to go up into the projection room, you know, kind of see what was still up there. Maybe bring back some memories for him. And then maybe share a little bit about that with me. And so he did just that. It was really neat. He talked about the struggles of being a projectionist back in those days, and that there was a lot of stress that came along with it. Some of the conveniences that we have now weren't a thing. Air conditioning, for instance. He told us how hot it would get in the projection room in the summer. One of his great stories was when they showed the 10 Commandments here. And as you all know, that's like a 3.5 or 4 hour long movie? It's a really long movie. The reels would come in, I think he said 20-minute segments. And so he had all these reels, and you're running 2 projectors, and you've got to set each one up so that when one reel runs out, you click right over to the next one on the mark, and it takes off. Into the audience, you really don't see that change. And so if you're in a projection room for 4 hours, changing out reels every 20 minutes, your anxiety and your stress level are probably going to get a little high. So he shared some of those kind of stories with us, which I thought were just fascinating. You know, I've got a picture of him leaning up against our digital projector, and we've got 2 old projectors still upstairs. And so as a kind of a neat contrast of things, you know, here's a guy that worked here back when that was the modern standard for theaters, you know, a 2-projector projection room. And then here's me standing next to him with a modern digital projector, but a kind of a neat contrast of the new and the old. I may have to work my way through this, pull this line all the way through to the other room. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm usually wrong. Oh, hey-oh. Dropped the set out of your ring. Yes, I did. Stuff is such a curly cue. Come on, meow. Work with me here. I don't like this kind of jerry-rigged, disorganized stuff. That's what we got for now. Steal a rubber band here. Tell my wife I took a rubber band. These are her precious rubber band stash here. But I need one. Okay, now we're gonna head out, go back in, snake it through the next wall, back into the concession area, route it back all the way over to the pop machine. And then all we have to do is tie a few things up, because it's not real technical. It's zip ties and these little cord hangers, whatever you call those. What do you call those? Well, by golly, that's about as easy as it gets. Huh. I can see right through there. Well, you have to hand feed this stuff through here because it has a tendency to kind of kink. Cool. I'm gonna go to the other side and work it on through to that pump. Would you be surprised if I told you that we've had mice in here before? It's true. I mean, they come in. And what mouse wouldn't want to live in a theater? Well, if I was a mouse, I would. There's popcorn everywhere. I mean, you'd probably die of dehydration eventually. Popcorn overload, but we've had them in here before. Now, before you get all critical about me saying that, yes, we've had mice in the theater before, you should probably know that every business that you've ever been probably has had mice in it. Every eating establishment. People could say, oh, no, not us. Yeah, mice are everywhere. And they're rascals, and they can get through a hole the size of a pea, I swear. What we've seen, this is fantastic, the mice will cannonball through the back door when you open it in the winter. So the back door of the theater is where we take our trash out at night. And there's an alarm back there that sounds when the door is open. Just a simple chime to kind of let us know that it's being used. What's really interesting is that in the wintertime, God is my witness, it was almost like the dinner bell went off. Those mice, once they heard the chime from that doorbell, they came running. I'm here to tell you I'm not a mouse's friend by any means. I mean, I can be a little tender-hearted at times, but I'm when it comes to mice, not so much. If you're gonna spend time crapping on my floor and tearing stuff up, I'm probably not gonna be nice to you. Matter of fact, I'm gonna try to prevent you from coming in here. Fair enough, right? Anyway, the back door opens, the bell goes off, and I'm carrying a garbage bag out, and just one step out the door, two mice come just blowing across the parking lot. And so they heard the door open and they were coming in. They knew what it was about. I'm going to tell you, I saw a level of intelligence in those little buggers that was kind of scary. I thought, oh my gosh, mice are going to take over the world. They're figuring this out. So before they could get through the door, I stomped on one of them. He didn't make it. And his partner, though, he's pretty dodgy. He made it in. And I thought, okay, well, I'm going to get a trap out. And I'll trap him because he'll be right by that back door and he'll be looking for food real fast. And before I left that night, he was joining his partner in that big slice of cheese in the sky. The part of my story is, and here's the thing, is that the little suckers, they get in here and there are way too many crevices in a theater where you can hide and you can do your business. That's the part I don't like. It's them doing their business in here. Because that's just unhealthy. And so, I mean, places like where I'm at right now, under these counters, underneath the popcorn machine, you can be a mouse paradise. So I don't like the mice very much. I just don't. I'm not particularly fond of them. All right, I've got to go get a drill. Hang tight. Well, let's see if we can destroy some other lines here. Let's just drill right through them, huh? Shall we? All right. Let's not. Say we did. We're gonna go in right up here. You can't see it, but just take my advice. It's the perfect spot. Didn't kill anything. This moment brought to you by Milwaukee and the Milwaukee brand of drills. Milwaukee, the best there ever was. All right. What are you doing? Come on. All right, there we go. Oh, see, just a little coaxing. Yep, got to remind you that you need to work with me. It's a joint effort here. Drain line. It's a joint effort. There. Okay, that goes through there. Easy. I was a contortionist in my other life. There. Yep, that's the one. Okay, man, we're doing good. Yeah, all right. Well, I'd say my 40-foot measurement was pretty good. We've only got about 6 extra feet left. And in my world, well, that's just about right. Because land surveyors should be all about 6 feet's about good enough. Oh, they should. About there. Where's my knife? It's not a knife. It's kind of a knife. And let's see if I need a clamp here. Will Byron need a clamp? Tune in next week to find out. Don't you hate cliffhangers? I could have made a cliffhanger out of this, Did Byron need a clamp? Boy, I can't wait till next week. It's eating at me. Damn you, part twos. Upstairs to the projector room, where I'm hoping to find some zip ties. Aha, zip ties. What colors should we get? We have a whole array and assortment of fabulous zip ties. I think green might be where it's at. A couple green there. There's 4. Let's take 7, shall we? All right. Man, I gotta hurry up. We got a movie that starts today at 3 o'clock, means doors open at 2. Staff's usually here about 1:30. So I've got to get my butt in gear. Here it comes. Ha 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 ha. Hey, it works. I'm happy. All right, let's get you guys out of the sink. Here we go. Well, now it doesn't want to kick off, darn it. Come on now. I'm getting a stuck float. Putting a little water down the gullet here. This takes it a second. There it goes. Should be turning off by now. I got a float that's not working right. Well, we can't just bang on it every time we want to make it stop. Oh yeah, it's gummed up in there really bad. Okay, well, I have determined that that transfer pump has got to come out of there and get cleaned. It's a mess. It's pretty gummed up. So I'm going to pull it out of there, take it into the other room. We're going to clean it up and get it back in here so that the float works properly and it can get the water moving like it's supposed to and turn off so it doesn't sit here and growl. You know, nobody wants a machine down here making a bunch of noise when the people are trying to watch the movie down there. Yeah, especially Warfare. We're showing Warfare right now. Fantastic movie. The first 20 to 30 minutes of it are almost silent. It's one of those where you burp, everybody in the theater is going to hear you. All right, let's get this thing off here. It's going to make a mess. There we go. So the drain. Leave that right there. Yeah, we should be able to just pull this guy out of here. Oh yeah, there it is. Now it's glory. Oh my goodness, you don't even want to see in this. Well, oh yeah, that's not good. It's not good at all. All right, we gotta head to the other room and clean this, get a bucket. I might actually give you the pleasure of seeing what's inside of this thing. Get that door out of the way. There we go, get a little light in here. Honestly, this is bad. I'm thinking back on it now. I've never cleaned this. I really don't expect that, you know, the folks that maintain the Coke machine would or do. I'm sure that responsibility is ours. I don't think I've ever cleaned this pump. And from what I can see inside of it right now, I'm amazed that it even still works. So I'm going to pop the lid off this and we'll share in the glory. Oh, yeah, it's a sludge pond. I'm going to let you guys kind of ponder as to what that is. The combination of the pop syrup, the water, the bacteria just starts to go. Look how this pump is boogered up. Look at that. It's like, it's jelly. I don't know how this is still working. The float was obviously sticking because there's so much crap in the bottom of the bin that it couldn't function properly. So the good news is that since this pump still worked, which is amazing, we should be able to just clean this up and get it going again. I'm gonna have to find a bucket, clean this in a bucket. Yeah, so let's kind of start that process here. Yep, that's a tad bit disgusting. My gosh, there's 2 pounds of junk in the bottom of this. Okay, there's that. Clean on that some more. Now let's clean this stuff off. You know, it happens. Daily operations, you just kind of keep plugging along. Everything works and you just plug along, and sometimes you forget about things like preventive maintenance chores like this. You know, this should have been taken care of a long time ago, and I've got nobody to blame but myself. Glad we caught it before it got serious though, and I had to replace a pump. Can't get this clean. There we go. The cleanup's actually pretty easy. It's just kind of like taking pudding out of a bowl. That'll work. Yipper. Well, that float ought to work now. Here, take a look at this. Yeah. Yeah. Is that amazing that that pump was even working? Look at that. All right, let's get rid of this and get this pump hook back up. All right, time to put this bugger in and get out of here. Like I say, boy, the girls are going to show up. Get this place running here very shortly. Yeah, maybe I'll get this pump in here first. So, goes like that right there. I will say one thing, talking about the history of the theater, you know, if you were running this place back in 1958 or something, you didn't worry about this stuff. You just had a bucket. You just let everything empty into the bucket over the course of the shift and empty it at the end of the night. Pretty simple. You know, we got to be fancy and electronic here. I mean, it's a convenience and it's nice, don't get me wrong, but it can have problems like we're having right now. Little baby problems. There we go. There, oh, yeah, nice install. Perfect. Pure perfection. Hello. Okay, this guy simply slips. It's a slip fit. We like those. There. Goes right into, yeah. Oh yeah, that's a good fit right there. I like that. All right. Okay, now get the old tube back on there. Oh yeah, that's on. All right, we're rocking now, baby. Yeah. Turn it on, see what we got. The proof, once again, is in the pudding. Well, we actually just saw the pudding. It was disgusting. Ugh. Run a little water, get that bugger running. There she goes. Oh man, flowing good now. Oh baby, yeah, like it. Well, that's a success. And just in time for the movie to get started. I guess with that in mind, I've got to get busy getting cleaned up here. I've got things kind of spread out from hell to breakfast, as they say. Well, that about wraps it up for me. We're gonna get the movie started here in a little bit. Staff's on their way in. Thanks again for joining me on another episode of What's Broke at the Theater. I've got a few things left to clean up. I'm gonna get out of here. So we'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you at the movies.